Hey, founders. Welcome to Straight Up Startups, hosted by Founders Live. My name is Connor Kaysen, also joined here with Nick Hughes. And what we're all about here is just talking about the top topics in technology. We want to hear back from you, so feel free to talk in the chat or let us know what you think over at Founders Live. Um, but Nick,
What's
welcome.
up,
How's
man?
everything going?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing very, very well. Nick and I are at WeWork right now. And Nick, you got a beer with you by chance? Cheers. What are you
Cheers.
drinking? Who's providing the beer today?
That's a good question. We're just gonna say WeWork is the main sponsor of this event today.
Awesome. Sweet. Well, thank you very much, WeWork, for helping us out, getting this started. We're at the WeWork South Lake Union location. But yeah, let's jump right into it with the first topic as we're going live here. So the first topic that we have today has to deal with live streaming. So Nick, to start off, we posted an article on Founders Live from Medium, and the big question is live streaming going to reinvent social and social networks? What do you think?
Yeah, man. Yeah, this is a very topical topic here, and clearly, I believe I really think it's gonna totally reinvent the social experience. When you look at what Facebook Live's doing, you look at Periscope on Medium. I mean, man, it is absolutely this thing is. I think it's totally changing the way that people experience social media and in real time digesting content. And actually, that's the direction that we're going with Founders Live, is to really look at how you look at what's going on right now, what we're doing, and you look at how content can be and will be digested in the future. And so I just believe it is the future. I think that they have some aspects of it that still need to be worked on, which is
Yeah.
equality. So when you read this Medium post, they talk about like standards of quality in terms of how to present the content, how to record correctly, the angle of the camera, the lighting, those sort of things are actually going to make the difference if this is going to take off or not. But I do 100% believe that it's going to be the way of the future in terms of social. What do you think?
Yeah, well, it's growing and it's unbelievable just to see, all the tech companies are trying to be the pioneers and really take claim to that space because it is brand new. And I think the person that everyone knows, her name was Candace Payne. She's also known, I think, as Chewbacca Mom from that Facebook Live video that went out. That was just her laughing with the Facebook or with the Chewbacca mask, and that was pretty unbelievable. How many people viewed that? We have all these celebrities now who are getting paid. I just saw that Russell Wilson here in Seattle is getting paid $200,000 to do live streaming on Facebook, which is just a
Yep.
crazy amount of money they're putting into celebrities to get that out. But to see just a normal person and the notoriety that they got and their ability to go viral just from laughing and posting their video online is pretty amazing. So I think it's going to be really cool to see who comes out, as the big winner. And I think there's a big opportunity for non-celebrities to kind of take advantage of this. But it's really about what network is going to provide the most viewers and the ease of access. I really like how Facebook sends the push notification. But yeah, I really like what this article says with the platforms need to get better about promoting the content. You can have great content, but if the platform about going live really doesn't help make that better, then people are going to tune out. And we've seen with live television, right? DVR just crushed live television, where live television almost doesn't exist anymore. So it'll be interesting to see who wins.
Right, right. So, but what do you think? When you think about social media, it's consumed in the moment that's appropriate for you as the person, the consumer. How do you think live content's going to actually take off when it is immediate? It's immediacy, right? So how
Yeah.
does that? Yeah, what do you think?
Things like the Arab Spring are what I think about a lot. That all spread because of the social media extravaganza and how they're able to quickly get the word out. And so I'm really excited to see. I think there'll be a big social movement that comes around and it's all streamed live and people are going to see it live, which is going to create a crazy problem because maybe things aren't censored. More information is going to be exposed than maybe the media wants or that company wants. But there's going to be a big event, and whether it's a natural disaster, a big political uprising, something like that's going to happen. And I think that's where people are really going to tune in. But Twitch, kind of off topic, Twitch I think is the company that's doing it the best right now. And I think because it's really easy to find context in a video game while you sign on, right? If people join in right now, they are going to be a little bit confused on our conversation because they've missed part. But Twitch is really easy just to see the game, know what's going on, and just go with it. And so kind of how the content fits with the platform is really interesting and how they're going to blend.
That's a good point. That's a very good point, Connor. All right, hey, we're going to move on. Next topic, what makes a good startup investor pitch? This comes from actually Fred Wilson writing about Twilio, which went public recently, and he said just the best startup seed stage pitch he's ever seen was which the CEO and founder of Twilio came in and basically coded within about 30 seconds to a minute, coded a very rough product and app that made his phone ring, and Fred Wilson was in that moment. So what makes a good startup pitch in your opinion?
So I obviously I've never really been on the VC side. I haven't had the money to really talk to all these people, but I have done a lot of presentations and watched a lot of people pitch. Having a clear, concise message is obviously very important. And if you can demo the product and have a successful demo, which is almost always a downfall for tech pitches, then that's going to put you a step ahead of a lot of people. And so with Twilio, he was able to, in a couple minutes, really show that this is going to work. And what I think the best pitches show is the investors from the very beginning can very quickly see the short-term and long-term opportunities of the project. And when they can make those connections themselves without the founder having to explain all of the things that they need to accomplish and the goals, when the investor can just go, oh, I get how we're going to get here, and look at all these opportunities, it makes them salivate with the places that they can go. If they can figure that out on their own, I think you've hit a home run on your pitch, and you're probably going to at least get someone to write you a check.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. Like you think about, I think what Fred was pointing at was there's one thing to walk in and talk and tell the investor like your idea and say it's going to change the world and whatever, but it's another thing to actually show them. He was showing them the power of their API that connects telephony and takes an app, allowing them to phone call or text message a person. And this was years ago. This was like 5-6 years ago. He made his phone ring in the meeting instantly, and that was showing them that you provide them that experience. And I think that what I've seen with all the pitches that I've been in front of, and I've clearly seen a lot now, the people that create an experience, like in the moment, you as the founder create an experience around your product to the investor, they're going to connect the two dots. When you simply like tell them or show them a slide deck, it's a lot harder. And so I think that, I would also suggest that, to anyone taking lessons from this post is you got to figure out a way for the person, whether it's a customer or an investor, to actually like experience what you're talking about. That's the most important thing.
Yeah, definitely. And all I can say as kind of the last word is if you get a chance to pitch to Fred Wilson in his office, you better hit a home run, right? Your product better be kick-ass, it better work, and you better really quickly get that image, because you get that. That's a once in a lifetime opportunity, and you just don't blow it. And I'm sure so many people have blown it in front of him. You've seen probably a million pitches, but you got to give props to the Twilio guys and to hit a home run like they did in the one meeting, and now to see that they're IPO, and we'll see what they do from here. It'll be very interesting, but I'm sure Fred Wilson was very happy with the decision that he made to write them a check.
Exactly.
But excellent. Going to our next topic, comes from it was actually I think from a mailer that you saw, but Sneakerhead VC, and it was all about having great meetings. And so our question for it is: it isn't possible to run great meetings anymore, or do they all just suck? What do you think, Nick?
Yeah, I felt like this was a really awesome topic to put on here just because, we're all part of meetings every day. We're all part of meetings that they're not enjoyable or they're not productive. And I think the title of this topic is, is it even possible to run great meetings? And, I will say that it is. I think it involves someone that takes ownership of the meeting, that takes leadership in how the top, that each person's perspective and topic kind of flows through. And I think the opposite of that, when I say, or do they all suck, it actually is suggesting that if someone doesn't take leadership, you find yourself 20, 30, 40 minutes in saying, why are we sitting here right now? Why are we actually in this meeting at this moment in time? And the moment people are thinking in their mind, why am I in here? You've already failed. So meetings are not necessary. They waste more time than they take. And I think that it is possible to have a great meeting, but it falls into a manager or whoever's leading that meeting to actually have an agenda to pull information out of people, to run the meeting, ask everyone what they think. Those were the aspects of it. If not, meetings just suck, because there could have been an email sent out and to-do lists and all that stuff without having to sit there for an hour taking up your time. So I think it's possible, but it's actually pretty difficult. What do you think?
Yeah, so I've been part of a lot of really bad meetings, and I think having that leadership skill is very important, like you were saying. And I really like what the article had to say about passing the mic. You really need the one person that's going to move the conversation forward. And I think meetings really need to be focused on discussing topics and making decisions. I've sat in too many meetings that are about, like, we're just going to tell you about the week, or do our check-ins, and that's just not worth it at all. We can do that in a memo or a Slack post, or any different way to communicate now. So the quote that I have here that I really liked with passing the mic is about calling people out, right? And just saying, kind of setting the expectation that you need to be prepared. And says, knowing that you'll be expected to present your point of view motivates more thoughtful preparation and focused follow-up. So kind of setting the tone, especially in the first meeting, of saying, hey, Nick, what's your opinion? What do you think? What are you thinking about? Those kind of ways. So people in the following meetings know, like, I better be prepared because they're calling me out. And it really reminds me about the transition that I really thought successful professors in university versus non-successful professors are the ones that just call out students, because it makes you want to be more prepared, or you have to be more prepared, or else you're going to embarrass yourself. And so I did some research about famous things that very famous founders and entrepreneurs do. Steve Jobs declined President Obama with a meeting that he said he was having tech darlings, specifically because the guest list was too big. Steve Jobs was really particular about who was in the meeting. But vice versa, kind of on the other side, Evernote CEO Phil Libin has kind of a policy that he calls officer training. And what that means is someone outside of that specialty, whatever they're working on, they invite someone else to come in as kind of like a third party onlooker to ask questions and kind of be that objective person to kind of bring other things up and think about it. So it's really interesting how different people manage it, and you can accomplish different things with different styles. But what are your final thoughts?
Yeah, I think I think the lesson here is that meetings they require preparation and management, and I think brevity. So being brief and not wasting people's time is where meetings don't suck. But outside of that, that's where they do. So moving on. Meetings happen all the time, especially with founders and what we're working on. And how does being a founder change your day-to-day and your passions. What do you think on that, Connor?
Well, I mean, from my experience, and I think every, especially first-time entrepreneur, goes through this. And the example I've given so many times over the last couple of years, especially to new business owners that I've worked with, is, we kind of had this cupcake rage, and that's the example I like to give with cupcake businesses. There was like a million different cupcake businesses out there because the last decade or two, it's been all about like start a business that's your passion, right? If you love baking cupcakes, then start a cupcake baking business. But the problem is, once you start getting some success with baking cupcakes, when it comes to being an entrepreneur, being a founder, running your own business, there are so many tasks involved with managing that, from ordering products to managing employees, hiring and firing employees, doing paperwork, doing your taxes, HR problems. There's all of these things that you have to take care of, and all of a sudden you're not baking cupcakes anymore, which is why you started it from the first place. And so that's kind of a big lesson that I think all entrepreneurs need to learn at some point, is that if you're deciding to become an entrepreneur, you're not going to be baking cupcakes anymore. You're going to be doing your job to run the company, and you've got to hire someone else to bake cupcakes. So if you're not willing to do that, and you're not willing to kind of pass that off and let someone else bake the cupcakes, then you're really going to struggle, or your business is going to struggle. Yeah, but what about you? What do you think, Nick?
Yeah, this is a very good question and very good topic. Which what comes to mind is, it's not just how does it change you day to day, but it's more like, where are you greatest? And I think, using your cupcake analogy or example, you think about someone that, I have a few people that I know that are big into cupcakes, and they have their businesses. And I think the question they need to determine is, are they better at baking, or are they better at the business? And it doesn't mean you can't be a founder. You can have a partner that shares the responsibilities, but they're the business side and you're the baker. Or to make a maybe more at-home example, you're the coder and someone else is the business person that understands the marketing, the financials, the investment. And so but you're absolutely right. At some point, it changes from hobby to business, and the person needs to determine where are they greatest. And wherever they're great, they need to stay in, and where they're not great, they need to bring in help. And so I think it's important, though, for people to understand, when they do create a company and they create a business, it's going to change from just baking cupcakes every day. And so I think this topic is more around, what do I do once I become a business? What are the things I need to focus on, rather than does my passion go away? Because you can still be you can still be in the kitchen or baking all the time. You have to figure out how to balance that with creating a business, and maybe that's with hiring other people that are great at that. So it's an interesting question, and it's a question that it's a place that every founder and every entrepreneur pretty much discovers, oh shoot, it's a point in time where I need to bring in someone else to help me out, because this is not going to work anymore. It's interesting.
Exactly.
Yeah. But interestingly, moving on, the next topic is actually we're going to call it the Goldilocks principle. And really, the Goldilocks principle, in a very short manner, is there. And this whole topic bothers me, because it's really saying, like, it's like the 5 steps to being a great founder, or basically it's saying you can read a listicle article and learn how to be a founder instantly. And that, in my opinion, is it's just, there is no quick way. There is no one way that you're going to end up becoming the greatest entrepreneur in the world by just reading an article. And it basically, the other side of this is actually to be flexible, to understand that there's many ways to do this. And I think, I think I would throw it to you, is what do you think about the Goldilocks principle, and how do you view it in the lens of an entrepreneur?
Well, I really like the picture really quickly. It was really easy to get the concept right away. And very quickly, when you're a founder and entrepreneur, you learn that talk and advice is very, very cheap, and you're going to hear both sides of every coin for every decision that you have to make. And you really have to learn to swim through those waters and learn to make decisive decisions, but also be analytical and get the right information and be able to make the right decision, which is very hard. And so, with Goldilocks, she's either got the hot and the cold, so she goes with kind of the medium temperature porridge. And so that's really hard to do, though. But the reason why I like this is because so many things that we read in entrepreneur and startup books are very like black and white, right? It's like you need to fail fast, or you need to make decisions right now, or very not very tangible. And so I really like this because it's not about like you need to do X, Y, and Z. It's, hey, you need to make sure you get as much information as you can to make the right decision. You need to evaluate that information, and then you just need to go with it, right? And if it doesn't work, then you make changes and you evolve, you evaluate, and you innovate. But it's not about going left or going right. Sometimes you got to go down the middle, and you got to make best with both situations.
Yeah, it's an absolute great analogy. It's there. All these articles and advice is so cheap out there now. So yeah, it's not about going left or right. It's about going your own path, and it's about making a quick. I do agree, quick decisions are better, but it's also a quick response and adjustment to what the market or what the world has been telling you, and so yeah, it's just a very, very good. I think the lesson in the end of this article was really, yeah, be flexible, take a quick step, but also a quick response to like what the feedback from what you're receiving from that step. Be flexible and adjust quickly, and you're gonna be okay.
Yeah.
So moving on, this article is from The Verge. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, it is from The Verge.
Yep.
And how many connected apps do you have, and are they safe? So this article is talking about how the fact of if you're connecting one social platform to another, you're actually losing your security with each additional connection. And how do you handle that, Connor?
Yeah, so just to give a little bit of background, how kind of all this information came out and why we decided to talk about it, was on Monday, a hacking group that is called R-Mine, I believe. They gained access through Quora to the Google CEO Sundar Pichai's account. And through Quora, because they hacked Quora, they were actually able to push information through Twitter messaging. Right, and this guy almost controls the world, right? If he's the CEO of Google and Alphabet, so it's kind of a big deal. And where it all came out was you have all these connected apps that you forget. So I looked at my account, and I had about 30 different apps that I connected from things like Flipboard, TweetDeck, TweetPic, Product Hunt, Evernote, all these different tools. Some are old, some I don't use anymore, some I do, and that really opened up my eyes. Like, wow, like we so easily say yes, right? And it reminds me a lot about the South Park episode where they talk about the Apple information and kind of just signing your life away because no one reads that stuff. But it's a very similar thing, and it was a good reminder to say, hey, you need to be checking up on these things because you don't know if these companies go out of business, maybe they sell their list, things happen, and these create open opportunities and back doors for hackers to get in and check your account. So you want to be conscious of that. So yeah, I had about 30, but from people chiming in about it, I mean, there's people who said they had 700 apps that were connected to their Twitter account, which is just crazy. But now with products or places like Product Hunt, it's so easy to see something that's cool, want to explore, and just say, I'm going to connect with my Facebook page or my Twitter page, kind of as default, so they don't have to put in their email address, which was kind of interesting. But yeah, I don't know if you checked it out, Nick, but what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I actually did not click into how many I have. I need to check that. But I think this is a perfect example actually how insecure we are online, and the fact is that your data is everywhere. You, as a normal consumer, I mean, look, they did this to prove a point. The CEO of Google was easily hacked, or his account was hacked through Quora, and they posted stuff on his Twitter account. And I mean, look, this is, I think, just a sign of times, and I think it's an example of how loose the security is in general, because, as you know, the fact that you're connecting this app to that app to that app, and if you get in this one, you can then post to that one. It's a little scary, and I think that this just proves that people need to understand. The problem I had with this whole thing was I think there needs to be more of this awareness push out there that, hey, this is where you can go to check. And that's what the article is proving. But there just needs to be more of this. And I think it actually might be a little counter to the companies like Twitter, like Facebook, and others to push this out, because then people are going to actually disconnect. So that's the tension that is in our industry right now, is how do we, as companies, and any sort of social company wants people to very easily sign on and create an account. But then at the same time, I think we can all agree that we don't want our walls as thin as possible and our data and security to be threatened. So how do those two work together? And that's the tension. So I think it's a sign of the times. I think there's going to be more of this, unfortunately, and I would urge anyone to take measures however you can to understand how many connections out there you have, and turn off ones that are not being used clearly, because that's just you want to increase your security, not let it all hang out there.
Yeah, I think this points out a huge just security flaw within the internet, and something that most people aren't really thinking about or concerned about as of now. I'm sure there's plenty of people, Twitter accounts, that they don't even use their Twitter account anymore. It's been hacked, and there's some crazy things that are representing them on the internet. And so, yeah, maybe we should think about getting someone to come speak about this that maybe provides a service to help keep people a little bit more secure, because I think this is going to just be a big threat that keeps coming out. And if someone as big as the Google CEO can get hacked and be embarrassed on Twitter, then it can happen to any one of us.
Yeah. Really
cool. But on to the next topic. This week, it's a little different for us, but it marks the 2-year anniversary of the release of Kim Kardashian's video game, Kim Kardashian Hollywood. And for those of you who've never played the game before, I've dabbled around with it a little bit just to learn about it. But she kind of live updates this game to mimic her real life, which is really, really interesting to see, how many millions of dollars she's generated from people buying things and signing up and paying a couple bucks to even download the game. And so, right, if she's going on vacation somewhere, you actually can go on that vacation and choose her clothing and interact with her and kind of give you a different access to her that normal people did or do. And so what do you think about these games, Nick? I mean, are you interested in them at all? Do you think they have a lot of credibility, or is Kim Kardashian's game just a true unicorn, and she's the only one that's going to be able to do that?
Oh, man. I've got many thoughts on this. It's first of all, officially stating I'm definitely not a fan of Kardashians and her in general. Just in terms of a fan, I'm not a fan of hers. But, man, the more I read about this, the challenge I had was I was starting to realize, okay, this is kind of ingenious. But then going further, it's ingenious because it's her. So she's taking advantage of, or acting on, creating a new business around her personality, and just the fact, look, if you can have a TV show about your family and you're going to have a game, and people are going to, so it all kind of goes hand in hand. But I think the genius or the interesting aspect of this concept in general is being, and I was reading it, and I'm like, man, is she an entrepreneur? and I don't want to even say that she's a talented entrepreneur, but I'm like, you know what? She is being innovative around content creation and experience, and that's what that's what it's about. And I think, quite frankly, I think you look at Founders Live, and there's a part of that that is similar, right? And you know, that's just not just about me. It's about all of us can create this more live experience around what we're doing, or what content information that we can experience. And I think that's what she's around, is she's opened up a whole new world to infuse people in, and people will either pay for it or it creates eyeballs, and there's a business around that. And so I give her credit for the real-time aspect, the like whatever happens in her life is happening on there. That people dig, like they eat that up, man. But I was conflicted because I'm like, man, I don't even want to accept that she's doing something cool and like she's an innovator. But I will say that I think it works for celebrities. I don't think that you know, some sort of average normal person will actually take advantage of this. But I think the lesson is be creative in your own life. And the key statement that I heard in this was, she said, I'm being myself, and being myself is actually interesting to people. And so I think if you can be yourself, and if you can create an experience around that, you might get a business out of it. You might get followers that are interested in it. So that's I don't know, man. It's conflicted, but it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I can understand what you mean by that, because when I first saw this, I've known it's a big game, and I just thought I knew there was going to be some good opinions on it. I'm sure there's plenty of people that have very contrasting opinions, but yeah, I totally think she's an entrepreneur, and it's unbelievable how successful her and her whole family have been, and they've, like, you know, taken this celebrity that they have and ran with it, and they generate so much money than they ever could have thought they were going to generate. Yeah. And I am really impressed, even though like it drives me crazy, because I think the celebrity worship thing is way out of hand, and it isn't good for the wide population, especially in America. But what those girls have done and how they've taken control of social media and the opportunities that social media have presented to them, if you should check out their Snapchat. It's lame. They'll have like 4 videos in a row of music playing in the background, and they're like sitting at a stoplight, and they're just like doing kissy faces, not saying anything, not contributing anything, just staring at themselves. And millions of people view this every day. And I mean, I think that's how Snapchat's really going to capitalize, is because they have some celebrities who are posting content, and easily the Kardashians could start slipping their own ads and their own content in all those Snapchat stories, right? Like if I was them, I would be going to Snapchat and say, I'm getting 1 million views per every video. Like every 3 videos, I need a commercial for my television show so people watch it. I think they're going to have a ton of power. It's going to put Snapchat in a really weird spot as they've been rolling out these ads for everyone. But you got to give props to them because they're killing it. The app is generating millions and millions of dollars, and I don't think that other people can do it. I don't know if even her other siblings, their games aren't nearly as popular as hers is. I think Kylie, the youngest one, is really starting to on the come up right now because she's a lot younger and thinks she relates to a different demographic. But those girls are just killing it, right? And they're making a ton of money, and they're super famous, and and they're staying out of trouble for the most part. That's what's hard with the celebrity. But the article kind of to end, the article talks about Britney Spears trying to do a very similar thing, and it didn't necessarily flop, but it was not 2 years later. It's not a top 50 game on the stores. So that's very interesting, and props to them for making their hustle and getting a lot of people to like them. But what's your last word on this, Nick?
My last word is I am equally unimpressed and massively impressed. Yeah. So moving on, man. Let's just talk about being impressed or totally shocked. But can you believe the whole Brexit thing, and what do we make of it, man? And clearly, we live in Seattle. We're here in Seattle in the U.S., but this is shocking the world. And what is it going to mean for the future of business, for the future of political aspect? Are other countries going to follow the same direction? Man, I mean, what do you make of this whole thing?
Well, the biggest, I mean, the people who lost the most were some of those like the richest people in the world, right? I saw a stat that like every one of the top 25 richest people in the world all lost like $1 billion. Like Bill Gates lost $1 billion, and Jeff Bezos lost $1 billion. Like that's crazy amount of money for a vote, which it's just insane. But I really feel bad for those companies, right? They're just going to have a huge hurdle to jump over now because of these changes, and that's what I'm really interested. Is anyone going to be able to really like stick to their guns, jump over this, and just sprint past everyone? Because I do think there is kind of that like chip on the shoulder opportunity for a couple companies really to like make something of this and kind of be the new figurehead of the UK and kind of create this startup thing. But the article talks about the opportunities for other countries. In the last couple of years, Berlin and Germany specifically, and London have kind of been the 1 and 2 players with getting financing for all these tech startups. And now it just provides a huge opportunity for Berlin to take off from that just with the opportunity. So the big thing is what kind of investment is this going to change? Are people going to be investing in UK companies, or would they rather put their money elsewhere? Also, when it comes to recruiting, because a lot of this vote had to deal with immigration and borders and letting people in, and so much about recruiting is about finding talent that's from all over the world, right? And so if you're going to restrict yourself from bringing in working talent, then that's really going to hurt you, and people are going to want to go other places. And so I think that's really where they're going to stumble the most. It's going to be a 2-year process, so it's going to be something that we really don't know the end for another 10 plus years and how this is really going to roll out. And there's still so many rumors about it falling apart, right? That this isn't even going to work, that they're going to veto it. So I think there's still a lot to learn, but I hope someone can overcome it. But I think it's just a huge opportunity for other companies outside or in the EU, but are outside the UK.
Yeah, you make great points, man. And first of all, you're right. Will this fully go through? Most likely, but there is some opportunities and possibilities that it might fall through, or like it might get vetoed and whatnot. I have to be honest and say that I'm not the most politically infused and charged person that has everything figured out on this, but my senses are this. I don't see a lot of huge potential and advantages to them leaving. Namely, if you understand the EU and the entire union, if you're a citizen of one of those countries, you can very easily, or as easy as it is now, to travel to work in other countries. There's a lot of flexibility and allowance, and this will change for the British if they leave. And what that means for just those people in London and every other city in that entire area, we're talking about millions of people that are actually now essentially walled out of traveling and working in other countries of the union, and that just affects a lot of economic improvement and all that kind of good stuff. So I think that's part of the problem. And secondly, I think you look at just the stock market and the shock it took. There's just a lot here, and it'll take years to figure it out. And hopefully, because it's years, the shock waves will be a little less, and it's just going to be okay. But my gut feeling is this is just not good for the world. And in terms of tech and business, I mean, any country or any business that is headquartered in that country, in that area of the world, is not benefiting from this choice. I will tell you that right now. So that's a big problem. But hey, we're getting close on time here. Let's move on real quick. So interesting transition here, but without being too political, what role does tech play in politics? Given that even just talking about this previous topic, tech is a growing aspect in our life. What role does it play in politics in general?
So Hillary Clinton came out today, and that's why I think we're talking about the topic, because she was kind of the first political candidate to come out and really address the technology sector, which in reality isn't like a huge sector of people, but financially is really a big indicator kind of what's going on within our country and the growth and all these big companies that are coming out of it. But the thing that I really liked what she said was she's trying to get broadband internet in every household by 2020, which is amazing. And also the other one was, I'm kind of blanking on my facts here. But that was the big one. Let's just stick it with that one. Getting internet in everyone's household is so important. I think that is something that will separate us from every single country, and having access to the worldwide web and all the information that's included is just going to make us stronger, make us more educated, hopefully can make better decisions, right? Especially kind of relating to the Brexit thing. There was a lot of bad information out there, and there's a lot of bad information out on the internet, but you hope that people do enough research to find the right things. And we've seen from the Brexit Google research, which I was really impressed that they released so quickly, what was being Googled about the EU. But I think tech is playing a huge role in politics, not only because they're innovating and they're just disrupting everything right now. That politics are, they move so slowly that eventually tech is going to steamroll politics. I've always talked about, I'm really excited that one day I think there's going to be a president or someone very influential in American society who didn't go to traditional school, right? They're all online educated, and they dominate the internet. And I think someone's really going to take advantage and become that voice of the people all through kind of their online personality and not so much through the political system. So I do think that tech and politics are going to be very much aligned, specifically with how much influence financially tech is having right now. And so I think it's very important. And if I was a politician, I think that's why Hillary went for it, because she's the one that can kind of make that connection first. But to go and make those connections with technology right now, is a power play by her and to her advantage. And so I think they're very well connected.
Yeah. I would say so as well. I would say that they're connected. They're also at odds. And when you look at the way that our government is not only like a lot of the PRISM stuff, a lot of this, spying or privacy. I think that they're at odds, and I in addition to that, I would say that the money that's involved in certain campaigns, it becomes very blurry, and so I see your point about the growing aspect of technology and the role it plays in politics. It's also continually butting heads, and I think that provide that. I mean, you talk about Hillary. I mean, I think the biggest story around technology with Hillary was the email stuff and how she basically was trying to hide stuff, and so it's totally at odds. At the same time, it's playing a bigger role all the time, and so, I think that this is a very interesting. It's an interesting question because it's playing a bigger role all the time. What type of role is it going to play? Could be positive, could be negative, could be detrimental, could be additive. It's one of those where I do think that. You're so right, man. Like, it'll be interesting to see the next, as we look down the future, like the candidates and the eventual presidents, where they came from. And I think that what you're alluding to there is actually technology allowing, quote, the average person to rise into a position of power simply because they use technology the right way. And I think we're going to see that too. But hey, let's move on to the last topic. This comes out of TechCrunch, and give a little shout out to Jonathan Sposato. He's a local entrepreneur and founder here in Seattle, and he wrote a really good piece on, essentially suggesting that technology can have a very strong role in helping the homeless. So I will ask you, do you think that startups, specifically creating new technology, can make great improvements on the homelessness issues in this country?
I think the tech companies are obligated to be digging into these social issues. And I know that's been coming, but because they are the ones that are driving innovation and driving growth, they're morally obligated to give back. And I think as the generations go on, there's a lot more influence on that. I mean, we saw the rise of Tom's Shoes and how impactful that can be just because of the good cause that they have. And so I think there is a lot of opportunity. The financially is going to be the hardest part, right? It's about we need people to come in, and we know a lot of these billionaires have said they're going to donate half their money to saving the world into these good causes, and that money is going to have to be put into the innovation to create these companies that are, glorified nonprofits, more or less, to help them out. And I know here locally in Seattle, we have the article talks about some good things. Amazon partners with Mary's. I'm blanking on my source, but to provide some space for homelessness. I know Zillow has the community pillar, which helps with low-income housing. But some people that I want to give out shout-outs to that I know are doing really good things just around the world that help with those. Specifically is this company called, I believe it's called Oorga. It's OORGA. And what they do is they create, they take crop waste and they mix and solar energy to provide electricity to rural parts in India. Right. Wow. And their goal is to provide electricity to 450 million people that don't have electricity.
That's awesome.
And so it's doable. People can definitely do it. It really is just going to take the knowledge, the innovation. And I don't know if software is really going to be what solves these problems, right? And data, but I think it's finding ways to be more efficient, to make energy more accessible, to make the internet more accessible. A lot things that are hardware, infrastructure based, that are going to just provide more opportunities to people to make people's livelihoods better. Another person, a founder I want to shout out, her name's Leela Jana. She's the founder of what's called Sana Group, and they're all about connecting low-income people with jobs around the world and utilizing the internet. And so she's kind of taking like that LinkedIn model and applying it to low income, which is great. And you can't knock anything that they're doing there. Those are the people who deserve all the credit for making this world a better place.
Yeah, that's great on those shout outs. And I'll give one to Jonathan Kumar over here in Seattle. His company, his early stage startup is called GiveSafe, and he's creating a really unique and really a cool way to give to individuals on the street via your mobile device without you're not giving cash. When you give this dollar amount digitally, it's going to go to the right place because it's only used at specific places. And I think the lesson here is, yes, early stage companies can help the homeless, but it takes different approaches than software, like you said. You actually have to assume that these people aren't carrying a connected device with them all the time. Yeah. And that, dude, that's the start. And you have, that is counter to pretty much every single company and startup in the world is like, well, we're going to use this mobile app. And by the way, that's the wrong way to approach anything that is low income or homelessness. And so it's just going to it takes a little more outside the box thinking, especially if the things that you don't actually encounter as a founder, you have to create solutions for. And so that's another way to think about it. But I do think, Jonathan was, he actually mentioned a couple of the, startups locally that were working on cool stuff. And, I am blanking on the app that they had created, but there's an app here in Seattle where, you go around at night, you can actually capture an image, tag it with the specific location. You can tag it with specific information, like let's say someone's sleeping in a van and the van has a busted window and it's like November, December. You can capture that image, you can take it, you use the app, it uploads into the system. someone comes out tomorrow and fixes the window for them. I mean, that's amazing, right? Like, there's people going around the city actually detailing this information so that others can go and help those people the next day. So that's really cool as well. But I really think there's various ways that if we as founders can open our mind, how we can help the needy and the less fortunate. I think it's part of our duty. So I'll give you the last word, man.
Awesome. Yeah, with it being our duty, it's a human being thing, right? Borders don't matter, race doesn't matter, gender doesn't matter. We're all human beings. We all owe it to each other. So if you're out there solving problems, it's your obligation to make sure we're focused on solving the problems that make humanity better and it's going to make us all coexist. But that's it. That's all we have for today, founders. Thank you very much for joining us. To broaden our discussion on all these topics, they're going to be posted throughout the week from here on out on Founders Live. You can visit us at founderslive.com. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook when we get those things set up. Thanks to WeWork for letting us host. Nick, always a pleasure speaking with you, and we'll see you next week.
See you later, Connor.